Welcome to Nicole's Nightmare Narratives, where darkness thrives and horror comes to life. In tonight's chilling tale, we delve into the Cursed Crypt, a terrifying tale of haunted secrets. Prepare yourself for a journey into the unknown, where the past refuses to stay buried, and the dead don't rest in peace. Turn off the lights, settle in, and let the terror begin. Hidden deep within the heart of a forgotten cemetery lay a crypt shrouded in legend and fear. For generations, the townsfolk of Ravenwood whispered about its cursed nature, warning all who dared to listen to stay away. They spoke of restless spirits, malevolent forces, and a dark history that tainted the very ground on which the crypt stood. Yet, despite the ominous warnings, curiosity has a way of luring the brave, or perhaps the foolish, into places they should never tread. The story begins with a young historian named Evelyn Reed, who had always been fascinated by the macabre. Her studies led her to Ravenwood, a town rich with history and shrouded in mystery. Evelyn had heard tales of the Cursed Crypt and, intrigued by its dark allure, decided to investigate its history for her latest research project. Evelyn arrived in Ravenwood on a cold, foggy morning. The town's eerie atmosphere seemed to welcome her with open arms. As she walked through the cobblestone streets, she felt the weight of unseen eyes upon her, a feeling that only grew stronger as she approached the cemetery. The cemetery itself was a desolate place, overgrown with weeds and vines, and filled with crumbling tombstones. At its center stood the crypt, an imposing structure made of dark stone, covered in moss and ivy. Its entrance was sealed by an iron gate, rusty and foreboding. The air around it felt colder, and the silence was almost deafening. Evelyn took a deep breath and pushed open the gate, which creaked loudly, breaking the oppressive silence. She descended the stone steps into the crypt, her flashlight casting long shadows on the damp walls. The air was thick with the scent of decay and mildew. She felt a chill run down her spine, but her determination to uncover the truth kept her moving forward. Inside the crypt, she discovered a series of stone coffins, each adorned with intricate carvings and symbols. The names etched into the stone were unfamiliar, yet they seemed to echo with a sense of dread. At the far end of the crypt, she found an old wooden chest, its surface covered in dust and cobwebs. Her heart raced as she approached it, feeling a strange compulsion to open it. With trembling hands, Evelyn lifted the lid of the chest, revealing a collection of ancient scrolls and artifacts. Among them was a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age. She carefully picked it up and began to read, her eyes widening with each passing word. The journal belonged to a man named Jonathan Blackwood, a gravekeeper who had worked at the cemetery over a century ago. His writings detailed the tragic events that led to the crypt's curse. According to Jonathan, the crypt was built to contain the remains of a wealthy family, the Ravenscrofts, who were known for their cruel and ruthless nature. The townsfolk despised them, and when the family fell victim to a mysterious illness, rumors of foul play began to circulate. Jonathan wrote of strange occurrences that began soon after the Ravenscrofts were interred in the crypt. He described seeing shadowy figures moving within the cemetery at night, hearing disembodied whispers, and feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. One night, he witnessed a terrifying apparition, a spectral figure draped in tattered clothing, emerging from the crypt and vanishing into the darkness. The gravekeeper's journal grew increasingly frantic, detailing how he and others tried to seal the crypt to contain the evil within. They performed rituals, placed wards, and even called upon a local priest to bless the ground. Despite their efforts, the hauntings only grew worse. Desperation led them to a final, drastic measure. They decided to leave Ravenwood, abandoning the cemetery and its cursed crypt. Evelyn's hands shook as she closed the journal. The stories of Jonathan Blackwood confirmed the legends she had heard. But they also raised more questions. Determined to uncover the full truth, she spent the next few days delving deeper into the town's history, interviewing the remaining elderly residents and scouring old records. She learned that the Ravenscrofts were indeed a family to be feared. They had amassed their wealth through exploitation and treachery, leaving a trail of misery in their wake. When they fell ill, many believed it was divine retribution. But there was another theory, one that suggested the family had dabbled in dark arts, summoning forces they could not control. Evelyn's research also uncovered a more recent tragedy. A group of teenagers had gone missing near the cemetery several decades ago. Their disappearance remained unsolved, fueling further speculation about the crypt's malevolence. It was said that those who ventured too close were never seen again. Armed with this knowledge, Evelyn knew she had to return to the crypt to uncover whatever secrets remained hidden. She prepared herself with protective charms and a resolve to face whatever horrors awaited her. On the night of her return, the full moon cast an eerie glow over the cemetery, illuminating her path as she descended once more into the darkness. Inside the crypt, she felt an oppressive presence, as if the very walls were closing in on her. She approached the stone coffins, examining the carvings more closely. They depicted scenes of suffering and torment, suggesting that the Ravenscrofts had indeed consorted with dark forces. Suddenly, the air grew colder, and a faint whisper echoed through the crypt. Evelyn's heart pounded as she turned to see a shadowy figure emerging from the darkness. It was the same apparition described by Jonathan Blackwood, a spectral form, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Evelyn tried to remain calm, holding up her protective charms. The figure seemed to hesitate, its form flickering as if caught between worlds. Summoning her courage, Evelyn spoke to the spirit, asking it what it wanted and why it haunted the crypt. The spirit's whispers grew louder, filling her mind with a cacophony of voices. She struggled to understand, but one message became clear. The Ravenscrofts sought redemption. They were trapped in a cycle of torment, their souls unable to find peace. Evelyn realized that the dark forces they had summoned in life now bound them in death. Determined to help, Evelyn searched the crypt for anything that could break the curse. She found a hidden compartment within one of the coffins, containing a set of ancient ritual tools and a parchment with instructions for a purification ritual. It was a complex and dangerous procedure, but it was the only hope of freeing the tormented souls. As she prepared for the ritual, the shadows around her grew more restless, and the whispers more frantic. Evelyn knew she was running out of time. She began the incantation, following the steps outlined in the parchment. The crypt shook, and the air crackled with energy as she performed the ritual. The spectral figure writhed in agony, its form becoming more solid and human-like. Evelyn could see the faces of the Ravenscrofts, their expressions twisted with pain and regret. She continued the ritual, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Finally, with a blinding flash of light, the ritual reached its climax. The spirits cried out in unison, and then silence. The oppressive presence lifted, and the crypt felt strangely peaceful. Evelyn collapsed to the ground, exhausted but relieved. As she gathered her strength to leave, she noticed that the carvings on the coffins had changed. The scenes of torment were replaced with images of serenity and redemption. The Ravenscrofts had found peace at last. Evelyn emerged from the crypt, the first rays of dawn breaking over the horizon. She knew her journey was far from over. There were still many mysteries to uncover and stories to tell, but for now, she had brought closure to a dark chapter in Ravenwood's history. But her ordeal wasn't quite over. As she walked through the cemetery, she noticed something strange, a faint, ghostly figure watching her from the shadows. It was Jonathan Blackwood. His spectral form seemed to nod in approval before slowly fading away. Evelyn realized that her actions had not only freed the Ravenscrofts, but also brought peace to the long-tormented gravekeeper. Back at her temporary residence, Evelyn documented her findings, ensuring that the true history of the Cursed Crypt would not be forgotten. She included every detail: the Ravenscrofts' dark legacy, Jonathan Blackwood's heroic yet tragic efforts, and her own harrowing experience. Her research would serve as a warning to future generations about the dangers of dabbling in the supernatural. Despite the relief of ending the curse, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that her life had been forever changed by her encounter with the crypt. She had faced the unknown and emerged victorious, but the memories of that night would haunt her for the rest of her days. Evelyn's story of the Cursed Crypt quickly spread, capturing the imaginations of many. Some were inspired by her bravery, while others were drawn to the mystery and horror of the tale. The town of Ravenwood found itself at the center of attention, with people flocking to see the infamous crypt. The cemetery, once abandoned and neglected, became a place of intrigue and curiosity. Evelyn continued her work as a historian, uncovering more dark and forgotten stories. But no matter how many tales she unearthed, the Cursed Crypt would always hold a special place in her heart. It was the story that had tested her courage, pushed her to her limits, and ultimately defined her legacy. As the years passed, Evelyn grew older, but the memories of her encounter with the Cursed Crypt remained vivid. She often wondered about the other restless spirits that might still be out there, waiting for someone to uncover their secrets. And though she had faced great danger, she knew that her work was far from over. Evelyn's tale of the Cursed Crypt serves as a reminder that the past is never truly buried, and that the dead sometimes have unfinished business. It is a story of courage, redemption, and the enduring power of the human spirit in the face of darkness. Thank you for joining us on this harrowing journey into the Cursed Crypt, a terrifying tale of haunted secrets. If you enjoyed tonight's story, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest terrifying tales. Until next time, remember, sometimes the past refuses to stay buried. Sweet dreams if you can